Several entities in Barbados have been making efforts to reduce their chances of being at risk or targets for money laundering and terrorism financing. Now, according to Director of the Financial Intelligence Unit, Shelley Nichols-Hunt, those sectors that were once classed as high risk in the 2019 National Risk Assessment Report, such as the international banking and real estate sectors and others, have been using several mitigation strategies. She was speaking to the media this morning at the Anti-Money Laundering Authority National Risk Assessment Report Outreach and Sensitization session.
Mitigation measures included the implementation of various pieces of legislation that affected the different sectors, the three major sectors, which would be the legal sector, the law enforcement sector, and the financial sector. So, for example, for the law enforcement sector, we now have the Proceeds and Instrumentalities of Crime Act 2019 that was implemented, which not only relates to criminal confiscation, but also now provides for civil forfeiture, which means then that you do not necessarily need to have a criminal conviction to pursue the assets of a criminal that may be involved in money laundering or terrorist financing. We also had amendments to the various pieces of legislation related to financial sector, starting with the same Money Laundering, Financial Terrorism Prevention Control Act, as well as the legislation of the regulators, the Central Bank of Barbados, Financial Services Commission, and the International Business Unit.
Well, as you know, the new year marked the official introduction of breathalyzer testing in Barbados. But the Royal Barbados Police Force is reporting that no tests were conducted so far. However, motorists are being reminded that they will be required to submit to testing if instructed by law enforcement. Those found in violation of the Road Traffic Act will face hefty fines or imprisonment. The Alliance of Owners of Public Transport is moving to ensure PSV operators pull up their socks this year to improve the sector's image and the quality of service delivered to commuters. In his New Year's message, Public Relations Officer Mark Haynes disclosed several initiatives are on the cards to achieve these goals. They include a soon-to-be-established PSV response unit and a functioning PSV command center, which features a manned hotline for reports from the public.
Telephone number is 538-3888. The public or commuters are welcome to call this number once their complaints are legitimate and lodge or report concerns. It can also be used to commend good workers or happenings in the PSV sector.
Additionally, Mr. Haynes said they will be working with government to revamp the Transport Augmentation Project, or TAP, and hinted at the possibility of a TAP school bus service in the future.
In the north and south for commuters, negotiations are to be held with the Ministry of Education to use some TAP buses as a pilot project to provide a private school bus service.
Meantime, the Transport Authority has advised that effective Sunday, January 5th, public service vehicles located at Probin Street will be permanently relocated to the Constitution River Terminal. Commuters traveling to the routes Probin Street to Newton or Silver Hill, Probin Street to Ferry Valley, and Probin Street to Newton Kingsland are therefore asked to note this change. A local Anglican cleric is calling on Barbadian parents to make a concerted effort to get young people back into church. Rector of the St. Lucie Parish Church for the past 35 years, Canon Curtis Goodridge, made the appeal as he says churches across the island have been seeing a fall-off in members. He says, based on reports from religious leaders of other denominations, this phenomenon is not only taking place in the Anglican Church.
A number of young people now are not really coming to church, okay? I know there was a time when parents insisted that their children be in church. For instance, as a little boy coming up, I had to get to church before my grandmother. I have discovered today that there are lots of parents who are coming to church, but they're not bringing their children to church, which is sad. And no wonder we're having so many problems in our society today. But I believe that we need to get back to training our children in the way of the Lord.
Canon Goodrich was speaking to Morning Barbados host Cassandra Crawford ahead of an ecumenical service at the church on Sunday. Now, several dignitaries, including the Governor General and the Prime Minister, are expected to attend the service, which forms part of Be Gathering 2020 celebrations. Canon Goodrich says he's looking forward to a bumper crowd. The world's largest floating book fair, the MV Logos Hope, is returning to Barbados. The Logos Hope, which last visited in November 2017, will be docked at the Flour Mill from January 30th to February 6th. The vessel's onboard book fair offers a selection of over 5,000 books on a wide range of subjects, including science, sports, hobbies, cookery, arts, medicine, and languages. The Logos Hope is currently in Trinidad and Tobago, and after Barbados will continue to Jamaica, the Bahamas, and Europe. Still to come, Caribbean Airlines has a strong response to some harsh criticism. Then a bit later in sports, overseas-based footballers wanting to represent Barbados face some hurdles. But before we get to all of that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
1 in every 2 people with diabetes is undiagnosed. Early diagnosis and treatment is important to help prevent or delay life-threatening complications. This tip is brought to you in association with the Diabetes Association of Barbados. Let's protect our families.